All right, so it looks like we are good to go. So let's go ahead and I guess start with the first
Hello.
question. Hey Paulette, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys? Sorry for being a few minutes late.
Oh, no problem. We're
Started.
just getting started on the first question. So,
Okay, perfect.
all right. So it says so the first question is with regards to the key elements of the business model. What should CloudFlare keep or start doing with respect to customer value proposition, growth to market, technology? I don't remember what that one was. It was technology and operations management and cost profit formula. So it looks like we're supposed to create a table. Let me just pull that up real quick. All right, so what are the key elements? Let's go ahead and start with customer value proposition. So what are some of the key elements of the customer value proposition?
Okay.
Does anybody have anything on what the key elements of the value proposition were?
Well, if this counts as what a customer value proposition is, it's just like the benefit for the customer is provided to buy the product, right?
Yeah, so it's
That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, a value proposition is basically, I guess, what kind of sets them apart from other competitors that makes their product more appealing, or what benefits does it provide that maybe others can't, or overall, what does it provide to the customer that makes it worth them purchasing it?
Well, I think one thing that set them apart was their price. A lot of other, like especially big businesses, were paying a lot more money. They gave one example in the case that said that they helped one of their customers go from paying $1.5 million per year and told them that if they went with them, then they would only have to pay $40,000 a year. And that customer was like so impressed. They're like, "Did you miss a zero on there?" Because they thought it was amazing. And I read in the case too that one reason that they can give such big discounts is because they've only spent $2 million on their network equipment. So I think their price point is one thing that really sets them apart.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also saw that like not only the price, because their service was, well, the price and their service was free, but I also saw that they were able to build an entire network around high capacity servers. And that I think that really made them different from other websites.
So it wasn't really the size of their servers that set them apart. It was the solid state drive. So going from a standard disk drive, spinning disk drive, to a solid state drive did give them a competitive advantage because it allowed them to switch processes easier. It allowed them for quicker recall of components or whatever stored on their files, stored on their servers. And so that was where they were able to cut down the amount of time that it takes to load images and videos and other things like that on web browsers, which sped up the amount of time it took, as well as lowered the bandwidth that it took as well to load those. So going along with what you were saying, Paulette, yeah, that really was a big element too, is the type of server that they chose to use.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought that it was a big bonus for the customer about how, like, even though it's kind of a complicated business and, you know, the stuff that they're accomplishing, they made it simple for the customer. And so, like, I saw in there that it has a simple sign-up procedure that takes less than 5 minutes, and then, like, it's going. And so I thought that was important, that it's nice for the customer that they don't have to sit there and jump through a bunch of hoops or have someone come out and install something or buy, you know, external equipment. It's just all easy, 5 minute setup, and it's done.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I also think that they're how they started to create their community among customers. I thought that was also different.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and the other part that I thought was really interesting was the fact that their system is constantly learning. And so through having more customers that are having threats, they're able to build a system that's better and better protects their customers. So it's through gaining more customers and learning what's going on that they can better protect against threats. And one of the really cool things was one of the algorithms that they built to stop from shutting down a server, basically overloading the server. They were able to do because of the server, so it switched processes, and they were able to reroute stuff so that it wouldn't ever take down one of their servers, which I thought was actually really cool as well. And they gave 100% guarantee that your website will never go down.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, didn't they say that the premium options offered a faster performance and advanced?
Yeah, and one of them also was, I think it said something like a 24 or 2400% guarantee, to where if anything did happen, they would like give them money or something like that to help pay back damages. So like if you have the better plan, you have better guarantees as well, and actual compensation if something does happen. So I thought that was a pretty smart option as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. Okay.
All right, so I think that pretty much covers what I was thinking of for the key elements. So let me go back to this. So what is something that they need to start doing or keep doing as far as the value propositions are concerned?
What question is it?
So we're within that table. So
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
yeah, so I'm just doing one at a time. So we're on CVP, or customer value propositions.
Okay.
So what are some things that they need to keep doing or start doing better?
Well, I think one of the things that they needed to start doing better was to have a good sales and marketing team in order to achieve growth and word of mouth. That's one of the things that I thought would be good.
I would agree with that. Like, they have a phenomenal growth, it said, already, but they also want to continue that growth. And so I think that having a sales marketing team would be good as well, because as of now, they've spent like zero money on advertising, or close to it. And so that way, like, one thing they even mentioned was like emailing the customers that were signed up for the free model, and, you know, trying to motivate them to upgrade to a better version. And they saw that they've never even done that, and they think that they could get significant sales from doing that.
Yeah.
I would agree with exploring those options.
And one thing to keep doing, I think I don't know if you could say promotions or discounts or the way they obtain customers through like their prices as well, very affordable prices. I think they should keep that and at the same time have a good sales and marketing team.
And I think they should keep improving on their product. Like Daniel mentioned earlier that, you know, it's a learning product. And they said that because of that, they, every 3 weeks, they are submitting new paperwork for a new patent. And that like protects them. So against competitors and stuff. I thought that was crazy how many pension they're making, but I think that's important to the customer, so I think they should keep doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say as well. Is the keep improving and keep getting better and keep building new algorithms and keep building new technology that basically puts them ahead of the competition. So
yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to so I guess we'll go to the so what are some of the organizational implications of the value proposition? So I think we already kind of talked about some of it, is the fact that they're able to, for the organization, they're able to really get the customers, and they're able to really use their resources to build pieces of the product that are valuable to customers.
Yeah.
So for growth to market, what do you think are some of the key elements in their growth strategy?
Well, one of those would be to continually improve and develop on their product, wouldn't it be?
I thought their sales team also, because they're the ones that are selling. They're the ones that are keeping the company going. So, but yeah, I agree with you too.
And I think I'm going to go ahead and jump down to one of the things that they need to keep or start doing. Really, as far as growth to market, I think that one of the big problems with the organization is their employees are overworked and they have a very minimalist idea, which is great in starting a business because you want to keep it as low cost as possible. But at the same time, I think that that's kind of hurting them as far as their growth is concerned, because they just really don't have the support as far as employees, and their employees are burning out, and it's just really they're having a difficult time with growth. If they keep at the same pace they're going now, they're just going to burn out and they're not going to be able to grow at the rate they're growing, and they're not going to continue to have the products that they have.
Not only that, but I also think that most of the employees didn't really have the same, or didn't work along the company's. I think they said it was hierarchical. What I'm trying to go through.
Yeah, they had no hierarchical order at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
I think one of the things that affected them with their employees.
And like, I get why they wanted to do that, but for some employees, that was just unmotivating, you know?
Yeah.
And I agree with the burnout because they're so overworked. Even like that's why they're having resignations left and right. Even those employees that are still there, I have a hard time believing that they're going to be considering, you know, their best work and stuff when they're just trying to meet deadlines and just burning out. Anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think if they cater to the employee a little bit better and try to balance it, then like then they get more quality of work from their employees as well.
Yeah, I agree.
All because of that job satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think looking at growth, really, I think the big thing is they need to figure out a better way to do the organization and to better figure out how to make that work. And that goes into the organizational implications that we talked about, because their employees are burning out, and if they were able to better figure out a way to do it, then they would be able to have better success and better employee satisfaction, which would lead to better efficiency, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that touched on this a little bit, but I noticed in the case that just their lack of structure with the employees, both in like the hierarchy, but also it said that they don't do regular employee reviews or anything like that. So employees never know like when they're going to be like have an opportunity for a raise or how they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They just randomly invite an employee out to lunch once in a while, but it's not really set. And so for me, I tend to be pretty organized person, so it would be hard for me to not, have that yearly review or whatever, with that opportunity for a raise or growth in the company.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, and I think we kind of talked about this with the customer value proposition, but what about technology and organizational management? So we did kind of talk about the organization and how that is inhibiting growth and other things, or could potentially inhibit growth. But what are some of the technology things that they're doing well right now?
Well, I think I kind of mentioned it before. They have a fast service. I mean, um, yeah, it's faster performance, more advanced security with other benefits, with a low price subscription per month. Yeah.
And they're good at what they do. Like they said, even in their freemium model, people would sign up and be like, wow, this works really well and it's free, And so they're delivering a quality product.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they really do have the technology that makes them stand apart, and they've got those patents that we talked about, and they're constantly creating new patents.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get into more of the financial structure here in a minute, so I'll just go ahead and skip that for now. So it says, working as a group, take a closer look at CloudFlare's cash flow formula. Suppose we have to hire more engineers in direct proportion to how we scale. How long will it take to become profitable? And use a spreadsheet and turn this in after your discussion. So I already have a spreadsheet that I've created. So maybe we can kind of work through that a little bit. And the one thing I wasn't 100% sure on is, let me go back and pull up. Okay, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so right now, I think in the case it said they had 500,000 subscribers with a 4% conversion rate, which means the paid subscribers, there are 20,000 paid subscribers. Monthly subscription is $20. So annual revenue per subscriber is $240, which means their total revenue from subscribers is $4,800,000.
Okay.
Give me just a second. My son made a break for it and was starting to climb the stairs, so I had to go stop him. And then the costs. So this is the part I wasn't sure about because it said it was per 1 million page views. So the daily page views, so it was $3.50 per million page views. They have 2 billion page views a day. So their yearly variable costs are going to be $2,555,000, which is what it said in the case. And then cost per full-time employee is $150,000 with 35 employees. So basically, they're losing $3 million a year. One of the things it was saying is if you were to grow employees proportionally to the customer growth, what would be what would your cost be and how long would it take you? So I built in, so I was looking proportionally right now. This is the percentage of employees to customers. So if we go up here and we increase, so let's say we get 1 million subscribers. Oh, that's 10 million. 1 million subscribers. Then it automatically increases the number of employees to 70, which then increases the actual loss. So even at that, they're having a greater loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made one of these spreadsheets too, but I left out the cost of the like page views and stuff. So I forgot about that.
Yeah, so and then the other part that I wasn't sure about was because obviously if you're increasing in customers, then you're going to increase in actual cost as well. So your variable costs are going to go up because then your page views are going up. So your variable costs are going to change, but I wasn't really sure because if you add in that, so let me go back to what it was. I think it was, so if you basically get the proportion of currently what it is, so the multiplier then technically would be 4,000. So for every 500,000 customers, or for every customer, then you would technically have 400,000 page views is what it works out to right now. So if we did that equals this times this, and then so I was looking at it that way, and if you increase this to 1 million, then all of a sudden your yearly costs for that go way up as well, and then you're looking at a $6 million loss. So basically, if you look at that, I'm not seeing how they're going to make money off of this financial model.
Yeah.
So what they're going to have to do is increase the conversion rate to like, let's look and see what, so to break even, go here and just look to see what it would to be. So to break even, how many subscribers would they need? So if you click there, that did not work as I had planned.
No subscribers.
So they were showing in the video. So let's so he did a goal seek for 1 million. So let's just say to make $1 million in profit. So to set this cell to $1 million by changing conversion rate. Let's see what, so 7%. So if they increase the conversion rate from 5 to 7% at 1 million subscribers. Let's do it at 500,000, where it's at right now, and see what they would have to do on the conversion rate. So at 7%, based on 500,000, they would be making $500,000. So so I mean, that does kind of show you really the only way that they're going to increase the actual, because they can increase, if they increase their employees based on the number of subscribers they have, then it's not a winning model. They would have to increase the conversion rate to even be able to handle a higher employee rate and a higher customer rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's $100,000, so it was $1 million profit at 7% if they have 1 million customers. So that kind of, if we look at it that way, that kind of, I think, gives us a better understanding of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so I'll go ahead and I'm not sure how he wants us to turn that spreadsheet in. I'll attach it to our group discussion, and that way if each of us have to submit it, it'll be in the group discussion with the link.
Okay, thanks.
So let's go on to question 5. Why does CloudFlare's management want to get big fast? What benefit does CloudFlare receive from scale? So I think we kind of, by looking at the financial model, as they get bigger, if they can increase their conversion rate, then that obviously they're able to reach more economies of scale, so to speak, based on server. But as you increase customers, you have to increase your storage capacity too. So I don't know that there's super amount of economies of scale within their business, just because of the fact that as you increase customers, you have to increase technology capacity as well.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, if they increase and grew rapidly, then they'd have more customers and hopefully a better conversion. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and they did say that they've built basically an algorithm that allows to switch between servers and stuff like that to maximize storage within and still keep their, without having to increase capacity. And they've also been able to develop the algorithm that basically keeps the websites from being the servers from being overloaded by hacks too, which I think does help them in economies of scale, because they don't have to carry extra capacity to protect against that. But at the same time, as they increase, you can only increase so much without having to increase your capacity as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and also not only, I mean, following to what both of you said, it would also improve their network performance if they increase their scale. So
yeah, and I think CloudFlare. So the next question is, does CloudFlare have network effect? And I think it really does. So the more people that use it, the more customers spread the word, because it did talk about how people were using it for their personal blogs and thinking, oh my gosh, this is such a great product. They would then basically go to their employer and say, hey, have you heard of this? And then employers were signing on. Big corporations were signing on at the higher level to take advantage of what they offered. So I think that definitely does have the network effects by word of mouth.
yeah, word of mouth.
Yeah, I would agree, because they said in the case that they sent close to nothing on like marketing and advertising, and their success was because of word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think they definitely do have a strong network effect.
Yeah, they do.
So the next question is, does CloudFlare have high switching costs? Will it be costly or painful for customers to switch to competitor if there were such a competitor out there? Um,
Well, I would
so
think yes,
at
because
this point in time, yes.
because all their competitors are extremely, you know, large, a little higher in price for one thing. And so if they wanted the same type of service, they'd be paying a ton more. And so that would be a huge cost to them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And hopefully those patents help them out with, you know, to prevent rising competitors.
Yeah, and I think it also helps protect them against some of the bigger competitors possibly trying to switch to their type of model. Because they have the patents to protect against bigger companies trying to come in and bully their way in too. So if you think about it that way, it really, I think it would be, they do have a high switching cost for customers to try and switch to a competitor.
Yeah, that's a good point about the current competitors getting in. So it's smart of them to do the patent.
Yeah, and well, and it also said in the case that they would to be able to really for the competitors currently to really be able to compete, they would have to switch all of their servers over to new servers. And by doing that, then they would have to basically start from scratch and rewrite all of their software because their software would not be compatible with solid state drives because of the way it's written. So they would have to rewrite all of their software for solid state drives to be competitive. And the cost for competitors to even do that is through the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
kind of sucks to be a competitor, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's not much you can do to improve.
Yeah, I agree.
So what other reasons might Cloudflare management have of wanting to get bigger faster? And I think one of the things that they were talking about was data collection. So the bigger they get, the more data they're able to collect and the more they're able to use that data to tap into other profitable markets, such as selling that information to marketers so that they know what to place where. So and that was one of the growth models that they were looking at. And I think the more data that they're able to collect and the more customers they have, the better their product gets too. I watched the video when they were being when the CEO was being interviewed by Bloomberg, and he said, as we have more customers and as we grow, then we're able to better provide a better product to our customers because the data we have coming in allows us to make a better product. So I think in that respect, getting bigger faster really helps them get a better product, and it also helps them collect more data.
Yeah. I also think that one of the reasons was that they wanted to monetize.
Yeah, and that's through, like I was saying, that was one of their growth models, was to use that data to sell the data possibly to other marketing agencies or to create their own marketing agency and use that information. But more than likely, it would be to sell that information to other marketing agencies so they could target customers better, and that would be a way for them to monetize through using that data.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some of the reasons that you might suggest for not growing as fast as they're planning?
Well, we saw in that model that we did that if they were to get like a lot more subscribers or something, their expenses were going to go up pretty significantly. And so one way that they could help that is by doing more of a slow grow That way they can find ways to improve their revenue.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I think also, and I think we're going to be jumping into it here in just a minute with the organizational structure. I don't think they're set up for growth. Really, I think they've gone as far as they can on the current organizational model that they have, because they're starting to burn out their employees. They don't have the structure, and so it's just kind of becoming chaotic. Is kind of what I felt from reading the case. That it's kind of just chaotic. People don't know where to turn for support, really. There's no management. It's just basically everybody free for all. Everybody's on their own. And at this point, if they try and grow, it's just going to even complicate the problem even worse. They have to get that organizational structure in place before they can grow any further, I feel like.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of lack of structure right now.
Okay, so we're on to, it looks like the last question, which is what I was talking about. So it says, discuss each of the recent resignations. For each one, list the reasons why they left, then ask what would have changed, or what would have to change for that person to have stayed. Is it worth it to make those changes to keep the people who left? What will happen to other employees who work there if changes are implemented? And then why do people work at CloudFlare? What keeps them motivated? Did they join the company so they could be told what to do, or have process and structure, or to change the internet? So there's a lot of stuff there. So let's first look at the list of employees who left, and why they left.
So Dale was the first one, and he was on the operations team. And my understanding was of why he left is because he had to switch being on call, and when he was on call, his buzzer went off like every 8 minutes for the entire 24 hours, and it was just a lot more work and pressure than any other operations job, and so he felt overwhelmed, and that like a whole team should have been doing it.
Yeah.
Instead of just him. And I guess they were trying to hire people, but they were being like really picky about who they hired, and trying to automate a bunch of stuff. And so he got burned out before they ever got to that point.
Yeah. So what I got out of it was that they were trying to basically automate the system, so that really he didn't have to take as many calls, but they never got that done before he quit. He just couldn't take it anymore. And I think that kind of goes back to the growth. They grew before they had the structure in place to really handle the growth, and to have the correct processes in place to handle the growth. And so because of that, it put too much pressure on the employees, and then the employees just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, not only that, but I also felt like they didn't feel comfortable with how they were running the company, which goes back to being burned out.
Yeah, well, to go along with that, they said, I think Matthew, he admitted that he wasn't like the most approachable person, so most people didn't even come to him for that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't really blame the Dale guy, because it's like I was on call, my buzzer went off every 8 minutes for an entire 24 hours. I'd get burned out of that pretty quickly as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That would be rough.
That would be miserable.
Well, and especially with having a family, that is so hard, because then you can't spend time with your family.
Yeah. And you can't sleep at all.
Yeah. All right. So the next person who left was David Conrad.
Yeah.
Okay, and David Conrad was the one that was on all of the different boards, to create international standards and stuff for web servers.
He didn't feel comfortable with what he was doing, right?
Yeah, he wanted more processes. He wanted more structure. Because that's what he does. That's who he is. And so he tried to push that, and they just weren't having it. And so finally he got fed up, and he's like, I can't do this anymore.
And I thought I read too, like he was kind of unclear about like what role and expectations he had.
Yeah.
Because like they hired him, but they didn't really know what exactly he'd be doing. And then he found like this sticky note weekly meeting thing very demotivating. And because he wasn't burning through his sticky notes as fast as others, and so he felt like he wasn't contributing. And that's just not good for job satisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah, because they moved him into a programming kind of job, and that's really not what his expertise is. He can do it, but he prefers creating structure and creating organization and the processes and everything like that. And one of the things that it said in there was that they were programming in several languages without any documentation. And so rather than dealing with it, he couldn't take it anymore, and he left. It was their organization and structure. And it said it also was their lack of HR processes, and that's why he left.
Yeah.
And then, so the next person who left was David Zakur. I would imagine is how that's pronounced. I don't know for sure.
Sounds good to me.
And wasn't he the sales one that they brought on to help with sales and monetization?
I think so. And he was the one that had a family and a long commute. And so,
yes, he had the long commute.
Yeah,
yep.
And so he had a really hard time balancing his family life with work, especially because he noticed like the two owners, for example, lived across the street, and so they were there in the morning, afternoon, and evening, and he had to commute. I forgot how long his commute was, but I think it was over an hour. And
yeah,
he said that Friday meeting started at 5 and would last like an hour and a half to 2 hours or so, and then he wouldn't be able to get home to see his kids before they went to bed, and it just was a lack of balance. And I guess that he tried to get them to move the Friday at 5 o'clock meeting, and other people have tried to, but they weren't willing to.
Yeah. Yeah, and so with that one too, it's I remember earlier in the case too, the CEO had come to some of the to some of the co-owners and said, hey, you guys need to be taking vacation, you need to be doing other things, because you need to be an example to our employees that they need to be taking a break and not pushing so hard all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that was just kind of the culture of the company. And it really was, because they wanted to make a difference when it came to improving the internet. And that's what did motivate them. But at the same time, if you don't balance it carefully, there is going to be severe burnout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like one of the owners, like he doesn't want to take vacation, and he kind of seems to me like a workaholic, but
yeah,
he still is that example for people like David, who has a family, and he sees like the owner doing that, and so of course he will feel pressure to do the same thing, even though it's what he wants.
And then it goes on to say that they had 2 more resignations. One was one of the early hires who had been like a key part of building a lot of the key systems. And it said he was a brilliant jack of all trades engineer. So work just kept getting piled on him. He wasn't really passionate about a lot of the work. So it took him a while to clear up the backlog. And then he couldn't take it anymore, so he left. But they told him, why don't you take a 2-month basically hiatus, and then come back, and we'll see where you're at. And they were hoping that he would come back after being able to take a break.
But didn't it say like while he was on his sabbatical or whatever, they contacted him all the time.
Yeah, it says he was currently traveling in Europe, but is in constant contact via email and is still working on CloudFlare projects.
That's not that much of a break, even.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it says the co-founders were confident that he will eventually return, but and then it said the last engineer the last resignation was an engineer that disagreed with strategy and staffing policy. He realized he wouldn't get the larger team and management responsibility he wanted, so he resigned. So, I think really the majority that I saw that it comes down to is organizational structure, how it's organized. There were some that they were just being overworked because they didn't hire enough people, or because they weren't willing to accommodate for those employees that had other responsibilities such as family. But really what it comes down to is their organization and how they handle employees. And so of those changes that are needed, is it worth it to make those changes to keep the people who left?
I would say absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's a bigger problem too. If they don't make those changes, they're going to lose more people.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Mm-hmm.
The turnover is only going to get worse, and
Mm-hmm.
they can't target people that don't have families and are workaholics. That's not really realistic. Yeah. And so they need to bring that balance to their employees.
Yeah. So the next question is, what will happen to the other employees who work there if these changes are implemented? So there are some employees that that are doing it for the love of doing the work, and they just put everything into it. How is that going to affect them if all of a sudden they change the structure and then they have to answer to people that they didn't have to answer to before? Do you think it will negatively affect more people than what it currently affects?
I don't think so. I mean, not in a big quantity or amount.
I was just going to say, my opinion is you can't please everybody. And so,
yeah, exactly.
They need to do what's best for the majority, which I believe is reorganizing the structure. The few people that like the way it is right now, they'll kind of just have to deal with the changes. But overall, I think it would be better for them as well. Change is usually hard for people, but I feel like they would appreciate it once it was implemented and got over the learning curve of the structure.
Yeah, well, the changes being made would be to better the company, like you said, and not just change it because of one person. It's more like not to lose the rest of the other employees.
And like we mentioned, if they're going to go forward with growth, this is something they're going to have to do anyways. So I think right now is the better point to do it before they move forward with exponential growth. I think now is really the time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it says, so the last question is, why do people work for CloudFlare? What keeps them motivated, and did they join the company so that they so did they join the company so that they could be told what to do, have process and structure, or to change the internet? And I think a lot of them, the reason they joined was to change the internet, and they really believed in what they were doing. But at the same time, those processes and the not having the structure has really become a burden on a lot of the employees, I think.
Yeah.
I'd agree. And it said too, they didn't join for the money or whatever. They wanted to make that difference.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess the final part of this is group decision. What should CloudFlare implement more process and structure by hiring a VP of HR and start using titles? Which I think it's a needed step to be able to move forward.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Do you think they should slow down growth?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Well, I think. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead, Daniel.
Well, I was going to say, I think that at this point, until they have a better structure in place, I don't know that they're going to want to go much further with growth and further complicate the issue.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think they should like try to necessarily slow down the growth. They can pursue it less, but yeah, they need to get the structure in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that they necessarily need to slow growth, but they need to deal with this issue before they really push for more growth.
Yeah, I agree.
So it says, discuss what will happen to the company under your recommendations, what will happen to the culture and motivation of current employees, and what will happen to the cost structure and therefore profitability of the company. So by hiring more employees, obviously you're lowering the profit margins. But I don't know that it's necessarily as much hiring new employees as creating a structure for those employees to work within. And I think we kind of covered the motivation part of it. I don't know that it's really going to demotivate a lot of the employees. It may on some, but I think the majority of them probably are seeking for more of that type of validation and more of that structure, so that they know who to talk to. And I mean, there are engineers there, so there are computer engineers. So I'm sure there's definitely some ego involved, which that could lower morale if all of a sudden they have somebody above them that they don't feel should be there. So I understand why they're doing it the way they're doing it, but I think it's better for the company overall.
Yeah, I agree. And under our recommendations, because of the motivation and stuff that the current employees will improve, the turnover will decrease, which we've learned in past case studies that can save them money, because hiring new people, training those people is a big expense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so I think we've answered everything. I have to run off to another group meeting, so we'll go ahead and I guess call it good there. And then, did anybody have anything else they wanted to add real quick before we end this?
I'm good.
Yeah, I think
All right. So I'll go ahead